Welcome. It's your boy A-Dub.
And your boy Strizzy. Welcome back, guys.
We in the building.
Sir.
And Say Like a Champ episode 223. Super crazy. And I know we have a lot to talk about today, but this is going to be a different little style. We're actually pre-recording this one. It's going to be a little bit more of a SLAC Express due to some different things. I'm actually on the move right now, but we couldn't miss a week without talking about what's going on. You know what I'm saying?
Never.
You know we can't do that. So, but before we get started, real quick, Strizzy, how you feeling? What's good?
I'm feeling good, man. You know what I'm saying? It's weather is starting to get to my liking. You know what I mean? I kind of like I like our winters. I can't say I like cold, but I like AZ winters. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
you can just throw a hoodie on or some sweats and be perfectly comfortable. But it's starting to get a little nippy outside, but I'm enjoying it. How about you?
Yeah, same. Actually, the weather at home is getting better, and actually, I'm on the road in Cali right now, and so we normally do like our annual like Disneyland trip right before the holidays. So usually you would see me beaming in from Tomorrowland or something like that, but we decided to record this one in a more secure location so that way we didn't have any, of the same hiccups. But yeah, exactly. But no, I'm doing good, and actually, just a quick funny thing that happened is while we're in Cali, like we're already here, we're actually at Disneyland yesterday, and we actually experienced a little earthquake while we were at Disneyland. Yeah, it was like 1 mile from Anaheim, and it was weird because I was just standing there, we were just like chilling, like we just got some snacks or whatever, and like I felt like I was like, whoa, like I was like, am I tripping or whatever? I feel my legs moving a little bit, I feel like a little bit of rumbling. But it was almost like when you're standing on something and like a heavy cart rolls by, or like a cargo. It was just like a little bit of like a rumbling.
Yeah.
And I was like, am I tripping or did y'all feel something? And everybody was like, oh yeah, we felt a little something. And some people around us were like, oh well, but we didn't really think anything of it, right? So then like 2 minutes later, like all of a sudden because we were waiting, we were getting ready to go on a ride. Like everybody starts coming out of the ride, like we were going to go on Haunted Mansion. Everybody starts coming out of the line. Then we start looking on the phone and like all the rides were shut down. So I guess they had to do some like things for like safety checks or whatever, you know what I'm saying?
That makes sense.
So like the earthquake hit, and like for about like an hour after that, all the rides were closed. Like the shops were still open, the food was open. They were like, you can still spend your money, like don't go home.
For real.
But it was just
out.
Exactly. Keep your wallets out, keep spending, you know what I'm saying? But it was just really weird, and it was cool, but it was just like different because just everybody's just kind of like standing around, like there's plenty of space, but it's like when people aren't on the rides, you forget how many people there are. So like it was just kind of like mobbed up, and everybody's just like chilling around or whatever. But about an hour later, like everything kicked back into normal. They opened up all the rides, but I was like, dang, I never. I've been in an earthquake before but I don't really remember, but I've never been in an earthquake like that where I was like feeling it, and it was weird. So
yeah, I mean, honestly, glad you guys are all right. Glad it wasn't too crazy of one, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, that is pretty crazy. I myself have never experienced an earthquake, so hopefully I never do, but you know what I mean? It's all good.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like, it's just funny because like we've been to Disneyland so many times, like of course we would experience an earthquake there. Like, that's so wild. But yeah, being from Arizona, like we never really have to deal with that stuff. So I'm glad we don't have to, man. I'm like, oh man, it was weird, but it was kind of interesting. So definitely wanted to share that quick story before we get started on our topics. But hope you all are well out there as well. Please continue to drop comments in the show notes as we're going along. We want to hear what you guys are thinking. And when we get back together for a full big show next week, we'll definitely deep dive on some of the conversations that we want to get your guys' opinions about, including that college football playoff. The good thing about that is we have like a month before the bowl games are. So we have some time to debate that, but we'll do a quick one on that as well later today. But if you want to, Strizzy, if you want to go ahead and take it away, man. You're the maestro today. So
I know I got it. Now I'm on the keys, man. But let's get into some NFL talk, man.
What's up next?
Oh, let's check it out, man, real quick.
Tune to NFL talk. Let's get it.
All right, NFL talk. Strizzy, what you got for us today? Do you want to do a couple of scoreboards, or you want to do your topics, or?
Yeah, man. So a couple of things, man. I think we obviously will go over the scoreboard a little bit, look at some things that some pretty good games actually. Starting off Thursday with your Cowboys taking care of business with the Seahawks. It was a pretty tough game actually. You know what I mean? Seahawks actually held up pretty well. I was pretty sure the Seahawks were going to cover that spread, and they did. But your boys still took care of business, man. Finally, an over game. You know what I'm saying? Like not a like a low scoring kind of boring game. It was actually a really really good one. How'd you feel about your boys?
Yeah, I felt pretty good. Yeah, definitely a tough game, right? Seahawks are a tough opponent. They bring it every time, but it's also a team that, like, if we want to step into that next level, like, we have to be able to beat. So yeah, I was glad we did that. Honestly, you know, Pops and I watching the game together. We watch every game together, and like we felt comfortable even when they were down. Like, all right, like we're gonna come back right now. Like the offense will put together the drive, and it's cool to see that balance, right? On a night where the defense didn't really have it, the offense stepped up and was like, all right, cool. We'll take this over the hump. And then the defense did come true in the end on that final drive to kind of stop it, even though at that point, you know, they definitely weren't going to hopefully give it up, right? Give the lead back with only a little bit of time in that 2-minute drill. But it was good that the defense held up when they needed to, and then the offense continues to keep rolling. Dak is doing great. And just to see where he's at this season versus how we felt on that Monday, Tuesday after the 49ers game. It's just really, really refreshing for me, really encouraging for me. And I don't know, man, I'm feeling good about where our squad is at if our defense can hold together. I feel like that was kind of an anomaly. We shouldn't normally give up 35 points, but it's good to know that if we have to be in a shootout, you know, the offense will handle business.
No, for sure. I actually agree. And you know, speaking on where we're talking about where Dak's at right now, I think the only quarterback he really falls behind and say I think at QBR and like passer rating right now is Brock. So that says a lot, you know what I mean, with the kind of turnovers and things of that nature that we've been kind of used to these last couple of years, and maybe folding a little bit, you know, at the end of like big games. But he's actually been playing really, really well. Like you said, if the defense can't come through, it's nice to see the offense being able to kind of be like, don't worry about it. Like, we got y'all this time. You know what I'm saying? So another test. I think when you guys play the Eagles again, is it this week?
So the Eagles next week. That's going to be a good one.
Yeah. So, you know, hopefully they can get their get back. You know what I'm saying? I didn't think they were going to lose, but I was actually glad to see the Eagles lose. You know what I'm saying? I've been kind of riding the 49er train this last 2 seasons with my boy CMC there. So kind of happy to see that. But, you know, let's jump into that game next. You know what I'm saying? That was a game I want to look at too, was the Niners versus the Eagles, man. Everybody was talking, you know, 49ers basically saying if we had our boy, you know, we would have killed y'all, and Eagles basically saying like, nah, if you would have had your boy, it wouldn't have made no difference.
Right.
They got murdered. It wasn't even close, dog. Like Debo backed it up, man. 3 touchdowns, 130-some yards, man. They killed the Eagles this week.
I know. I saw something like that. He had black Air Forces on pregame, and like people were like, "Uh-oh, like watch out," you know. Debo definitely came into play, but I was actually really surprised at that, only because, you know, we were like on the move a little bit, and I'm watching the scoreboards. And I'm like, oh, 6-0, like it's a low scoring game, 7-6. The next time I looked, it was like a blown up. Like I was like, what happened? Like so quickly that changes the tide. But I think it does go to show that like Shanahan, like, as a play caller, like he knows what buttons to push. Like sometimes he might take a second to figure it out. But you know, once he kind of figured out what the Eagles offense was, or the Eagles defense was trying to do, like he was like, all right, cool. Like I know what numbers to call. So I think that was a big game, especially them going there, right? And the weather, you know, it's like you just never really know what to expect. So 49ers, you know, they handle that business. So man, it's hard not to look at them as the favorite, but also for me, I don't want to have too much recency bias, because this is the same team we saw go like on a 3-game skid and be losing to some teams that they should have been blowing out, honestly. So especially like the Vikings, like that game, like certain games where I'm just like, oh, like it's hard for me to forget like what happened then, you know. Is there a recipe out there that if people can get the right pressure or whatever, they can slow them down? Or was it just that the offense was having bad days? Because if you look at the way they handled the Eagles, and that's one of the best teams in the league, like, dang, that's kind of scary. They're looking like they were at the end of last year.
Yeah, it's funny too, because like, I mean, just kind of piggybacking on what you were saying, like it's kind of, for me, it's a little bit of both, right? it's one of those things where it's like they weren't healthy, right? They're missing Debo, they're missing Trent Williams, who obviously, in my opinion, is the best offensive tackle in the league by far. I don't think anyone
invisible difference maker. Like people don't understand how much of a difference.
Big time. And I look at like the Browns game, right? They should have won that game. Brock did exactly what he was supposed to do, got them in field goal range, and the kicker missed it. The Vikings game to me was Brock's worst game he's ever played. Like he was actually the reason why they lost that game. And then they caught the Bengals when the Bengals were hot. Like the Bengals finally were like on their win streak. So it kind of sucked, right, for them in the sense of like those 3 games. And then, after their bye, they came out and they looked like the 49ers who started those first 5 games, right? You know what I'm saying? But when they went 5-0. But I think it's kind of like good and bad for everybody, right? Their opponents can look at those 3 losses and say, what did those teams do in order to make things difficult for them? You know what I mean? Because even without Trent Williams, like Brock's still an MVP candidate. They're still one of the best teams in the league, but they still lost him. So like you can look at those games, but like what did those teams do well that made things difficult for Brock? And the defense wasn't playing well either. They were giving a lot of points in those 3 games as well. In the 2 games, not necessarily the Browns game, but the other 2. But then also for the 49ers, it basically says like, okay, finally we lost some games, right? Brock finally had us some bad games. Where can we fix these things? Also looking at it in the aspect of like, these teams are going to look at those games and say, this is where they struggled.
Right. What can we do? What can we mimic?
Exactly. So I think it's kind of good for like all football world. It's like, how can we beat the 49ers? And for the 49ers, like, here are our weaknesses. How do we fix our weaknesses? So it's going to be interesting, man. Like the 49ers play really well against good opponents. You know what I'm saying? And that's what you want, you know what I mean, going into the to the playoffs and things of that nature. So it's crazy to think like Cowboys, Eagles, 49ers, and the Lions, if you will, you know what I mean, are all going to be really y'all got to go through each other. You know what I'm saying?
That's going to
be nuts. You know what I mean? But the Lions defense is so bad, you know, they got to be able to carry the offense got to be able to carry if they're going to go any, far in the playoffs at all. But I thought that was a pretty decent game this past weekend.
Yeah, no, for sure. I know we got to speed it up a little bit.
Yeah.
But a couple of things that stood out to me: Chargers, Patriots, like 6-0. Like, oh my gosh, everybody should get their money back. Like, you didn't even, you came to that game, you sat in the cold for that. That's terrible.
That was so bad, man. That's
bad. I'm like, how is that? I wanted to say shout out to the Cardinals. I know the Steelers, their offense, right? But still, the Cardinals going on the road to Pittsburgh and putting up that much points on that defense.
For sure.
That was a good look.
Yep. Their boy Connor, man, he went off on his old team, man.
Yeah.
Over 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. He gave it to him. Texans Broncos too, man. Like that was a pretty close game at the end of it anyway. And Stroud came through. His boy Tank Dell went out early in the first quarter.
Yeah.
He still got the job done. So Broncos look real Bronco-ish in this game, if I'm being completely honest. You know what I'm saying?
I know. I was like, maybe they have the hot hand, but I'm happy for the Texans. Like, I love the Texans.
Me too, and I was glad they got that dub. Speaking of all these teams, touch on a bit real quick. Lions had a really, really early kind of 21-0 lead, and they gave it up big. So again, that defense is very easily to score upon. It feels like so they gotta fix some things. So they have a lot of really good defensive players to be this bad on defense. So they got to fix some stuff.
Yeah, no, most definitely. Like, I'm looking at them like they want to be in that top like 4 or 5 of the NFC, right? They want to be like that 4th best team, but I honestly don't know. It's hard for me to like see anybody other than like the Cowboys, Eagles, and of course the 49ers.
Yeah, definitely. I think the NFC will definitely be represented by one of those 3 teams easily.
Yeah,
I think it's a question mark about that, but one of those 3 teams is definitely going to be representing the NFC in the Super Bowl this year.
Right. And if I look at them and if they're playing well, like honestly, like I don't know, we're gonna have to debate it a little bit more next week. Maybe after next week, what we'll do is we'll look at the standings and where everybody is at the wild cards and stuff. But honestly, like I'm looking at the AFC, like I'm not too tripping on the AFC. Like and especially like after the Chiefs went down to the Packers the way that they did. I'm still Baltimore is probably the one looming out there.
Yeah, that's probably I'd say probably them only because the the Dolphins play well against bad teams, but not so good against the good ones. But you know what I mean? They've got a tough road. Their next 5 games are at home, but they got their next 5 games are pretty tough games. You know what I mean? So let's see how they end the season too.
Yeah, no, for sure. Let's see. Let's touch on should we touch on you want to do your debate real quick?
Yeah, man. I got a question for you. So this year, like you just talked about the Chiefs, and that's part of my question. You know what I mean? Is the MVP as of late has been basically a quarterback award, right? The last, I can't remember the last person.
Yeah,
did Liam Thomas win MVP? You know what I'm saying? I can't remember.
Maybe.
I can't remember the last MVP that wasn't a quarterback, but I wanted to see who your top 3 MVPs are. You know what I'm saying? And it could be a quarterback. I'm just curious on who your top 3 MVPs are right now.
Yeah. So for me, I'm looking at CMC. Yeah. The way that defense, the way that offense is different without him. Also, Tyreek Hill, if he gets 2,000 yards, I think he needs to be in the conversation.
Definitely.
And then that third spot, I'm not really sure. You know, a lot of people are saying Jalen Hurts, Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott, like kind of at the top of that award. Mm-hmm. But I'll be honest, like I'm kind of with you. Like if one of those win it, then you might as well just change the MVP award to the quarterback award. You know, best quarterback.
Facts.
But how do you feel? Who do you got up there?
Yeah, man. So like you pretty much hit the nail on the coffin for me too, man. Right now at number 1 for me, I gotta say Christian McCaffrey. Only because like what he's been able to do. I mean, he's literally scored in every single game but one, dating back to like last year when he got drafted or traded by the 49ers. And like you said, I think he just brings such a different dynamic to the offense, man. Like he literally is an every down back. He can block just as well as fullbacks, runs the ball extremely well. He's already over 1,000 yards rushing for the year and only 12 weeks in. Been an absolute baller, man. And number 2 for me is Tyreek Hill, like you had mentioned. You know, they're playing really well. This dude also is already, I think he's at 1,400 yards right now. And I think the next closest one to him, I think, is CeeDee Lamb, who's like
11.
Yeah, he's like 300 yards behind him, you know what I mean? And it's crazy, you know. Like 5 weeks left, man. He's probably going to break the record easily, and I think if he does break the record, I think he's very deserving. Because even the same thing without Tyreek Hill, you know, Tua was basically being quit on. You know what I mean? They were basically like, all right, where are we going from here?
Right.
Who's in the draft next season? You know what I mean? So I feel like Tyreek Hill is at number 2 for me, and at number 3 right now for me, Justin, what he did to the Eagles is Brock Purdy. You know what I mean? I feel like I talked about them last year, you know what I mean? And, you know, I know Shanahan has a system and all that kind of fun stuff, but I look at all the things that Brock does that has nothing to do with Shanahan's system. His drops, his decision-making, the ball getting out of his hands so well, his ball placement to his receivers. One thing I really love being a receiver myself is the fact that you've never seen any receiver on that team get blown up. You know what I mean? Like he always puts the ball in spots where only his receivers can get it. Very non-turnover prone. He doesn't turn the ball over very often, you know, minus that Vikings game, I think it was, when he had like 3 of them or whatever. But I just feel like right now, like if I had to put a quarterback in the conversation, like it's probably Brock and then followed by Dak Prescott, like you had mentioned, man. Because I was looking at the stats last night, and Dak's doing very well too, dude. Like 26 touchdowns, only 6 turnovers, and I think that's tied with Brock right now. I think both of them only have 6 turnovers right now, and and Brock's got 3 less touchdowns. But I think the thing that gave Brock the little over for me is just the fact that it's the fact that they it's the running game for the 49ers too. You know what I'm saying? It's just the little bitty things. But I think Dak is very deserving, man. I think if Brock, you know, can't hold on to that top spot for me in quarterback wise, Dak's going to overturn him. So. Y'all, I think Dallas is in really good shape, man. You know, the offense and defense are both looking really, really good, and when one's not working, the other one is. So, I hope this year is a year, if any year, that the award doesn't go to a quarterback, because I think those first 2 guys that we both mentioned are very, very deserving.
Yeah, absolutely. Like
when you really with the rest of the SLAC Nation has to think about it, but maybe we'll bring it up next weekend when we get a hold of everybody.
Yeah, definitely. We need everybody to weigh in on that one. And yeah, man, I'm like, I agree with you as far as like if we're looking at who's the most valuable to their team, it's you know, it's those 2 guys. Without them on their teams, like it'd be a totally different story. So
it is, man. It really is.
Yeah, but no, I think we might have to wrap soon. But here's the thing. Like we said, this is going to be a preview for some deep dives. So, NBA talk, we got to talk about the in-season tournament. The first couple games were last night. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But we'll know a little bit more about the actual finals, going into next week. And then the other thing I was going to say is we definitely got to talk college football playoff. Like, I want to be able to debate with everybody
Facts.
who we thought, if they got it right. I'm wearing my loyalty shirt. Just a quick preview from where I'm at, though, and we kind of talked about is like, I'm okay with Georgia being out based on the fact that we had the chance to win our game and handle business, and we didn't. It sucks, man. It's really hard. But I don't know, but we definitely are going to get our thoughts on that as well. So prepare, you guys. Do your research, do your homework, come with your arguments. I know Anthony Weston's got a lot to say about it. I know Pops has got a lot to say about it. I know you do. I know Marcus does. So we definitely got to have that debate when we can get back together too. But anything else you wanted to touch on real quick before we drop?
No, man, you hit everything on them, man. I want to say thanks to everybody. Be safe out there, all that fun stuff, and we'll definitely get back to y'all next Tuesday, man, with a lot more stuff to go, man. So with that being said, I guess I'll sign off today. That's your boy Strizzy.
It's your boy A-Dub. Much love.
And we out.
And you say the truth, they open up my eyes.